You don't have to be a white nationalist. You don't have to be a white supremacist. You don't have to be one of those guys wearing Viking helmets on your heads with horns sticking out of them, talking about European culture that's 27 million years old and is responsible for every single good thing ever invented on this planet. No, you don't have to be one of those guys. And a lot of people here are not one of those guys. You don't have to be one of those guys to just keep your eyes open and realize if you pay attention, if you believe what you see on TV, newspapers, radio every single day, that if you're a white person, you suck really, really, really bad. You're always doing bad stuff to people. Why don't we pick up with Hillary just like a day or so ago? She's down in Selma, Alabama, reminding people how much white people suck because white people stopped 40, 80,000, probably more, probably 80 million black people in Wisconsin from doing what she knows they would have done anyway. They would have voted for her. Let's pick up Hillary.
Just never forget, there is an other side in America, and they never give up. They never quit. They're never discouraged. They are motivated every single day to try to pull back rights, to try to suppress rights, to try to prevent people from fulfilling their own God-given potential. And so they did go to work.
Understand that Terminator is out there. It can't be bargained with. It can't be reasoned with. It doesn't feel pity or remorse or fear. And it absolutely will not stop, ever, until you are dead.
And when they went to work, they found a receptive Supreme Court who came up with the most absurd decision. There are a lot of absurd decisions, but this is, in many ways, the most absurd. The Congress is supposed to legislate based on evidence and facts, which we did, and then it gets up to the Supreme Court, and they say, you don't need that anymore. We don't need that voting rights stuff. You don't have to hold states and municipalities accountable. We're beyond all that now. What nonsense. Absolute absurd nonsense. And what was the result? They gutted the Voting Rights Act. I was the first person who ran for president without the protection of the Voting Rights Act. And I will tell you, it makes a really big difference. And it doesn't just make a difference in Alabama and Georgia. It made a difference in Wisconsin, where the best studies that have been done said somewhere between 40 and 80,000 people were turned away from the polls because of the color of their skin, because of their age, because of whatever excuse could be made up to stop a fellow American citizen from voting.
And so all we ask in these stories, right, is for some reporter to say, okay, Hillary, we got 40 to 80,000 black people wandering the wilderness of Wisconsin, looking for a place to vote, being turned away. And there's about 8 million reporters in Wisconsin on election day, and not one person showed up on television. During your little fairy tale speech, you didn't bring one person in, let alone 80,000, to say, yeah, I walked into that voting booth in Milwaukee. Yeah, and I know in Milwaukee there's a lot of black people, and the people manning the polls are black, and all the poll watchers are black, and the judges are black, and the cops are black. But I walked in there, and there was some white Republican going, oh, no, you're black. You can't vote in this election. Sorry. That's the way it rolls. Well, we'll take your word for it. Why not? White people suck. Everybody knows that. You don't have to prove that anymore. 2 + 2 = 4. White people suck. QED. But of course, it's not just politics now. I mean, white people suck along a whole range of opportunities. I guess there's a movie coming out this week called Captain Marvel. And the chick, and it's a Marvel movie. And so everybody's trying to pretend this is like the first movie in the history of the world that ever actually had a woman in it. I mean, that's what you do in these marketing things, right? You go tell people, hey, we've never had a woman in a movie before. That's what makes this one special. Anyway, the person who's going to be the star of this movie, Brie Larson, she was giving a speech, I think last year, and the speech is now getting some attention since she apparently is going to be a big star this weekend if her movie doesn't blow up. She was talking about white movie critics and how badly they served the public when they talked about this masterpiece, this cinematic once-in-a-lifetime event called A Wrinkle in Time. Let's hear what Brie Larson had to say about that.
Talk about something that's really important to me. I'd like to bring to light an aspect of our industry that has risen to the surface in the last week. It's an issue that's been bubbling since really the whole time, but this issue has a solution that each one of us in this room can participate in. So earlier this week, USC Annenberg's Inclusive Initiative released findings that 67% of the top critics reviewing the 100 highest grossing movies in 2017 were white males. Less than a quarter were white women, and less than 10% were unrepresented men. Only 2.5% of those top critics were women of color. So you're probably thinking right now, wow, that super doesn't represent the country that I live in, and that's because that's true. This is a huge disconnect from the US population breakdown of 30% white men, 30% white women, 20% men of color, and 20% women of color. Is that if you make a movie that is a love letter to women of color, there is an insanely low chance a woman of color will have the chance to see your movie and review your movie. And this is also not to mention other people besides white dudes like Star Wars and would love the opportunity to do a set visit. And I'm also saying I don't hate white dudes. I'm just saying we need to be conscious of our bias and do our part to make sure that everyone is in the room. It really sucks that reviews matter, but reviews matter. I do not need a 40-year-old white dude to tell me what didn't work for him about A Wrinkle in Time. It wasn't made for him. I want to know what that film meant to women of color, to biracial women, to teen women of color, to teens that are biracial.
Okay, I guess I was feeling kind of perverse because after I heard the speech, after I heard how unfairly these old white movie critics did what they did to A Wrinkle in Time, I said, okay, hey, I don't mind a good fantasy movie every now and then. Like Dune or the Golden Compass movies with Nicole Kidman, a couple other ones. I'm always like science fiction. I'm going to give A Wrinkle in. I don't know why. I don't know how this one got by me. Maybe I just saw the headlines that said, listen, stay away from this movie no matter what. Maybe because I saw Oprah in it and I thought, well, if Oprah's in it, it's probably going to have something about relentless white racism all the time, everywhere. That explains everything. But anyway, I actually went and watched that stupid movie, A Wrinkle in Time, last night. It was the worst movie I've ever seen in my entire life. The worst. And I'm not allowed to have that opinion or express that opinion because I can't see the world through the lens of a 12-year-old female of color. That was a huge movie. It cost like $125 million to make. That means in order to turn a profit, that movie, the box office returns had to be $400 million. That means it had to be huge. Oh, yeah. And one of the reasons you don't hear much about A Wrinkle in Time blowing up, it was a total dud. Nobody liked it. Not even tiny little girls of color. Because it was directed by a black woman. Oh, this was the first movie directed by a black woman to exceed $100 million at the box office. Yes, but the thing needed to go over $400 million to make some money. This thing was a bomb. Nobody liked this movie, but nobody's allowed to say so, especially if you're a white dude, because everybody knows white dudes suck. So now they're trying to bully white dudes into pretending that movies are good because movies with people of color in them are automatically good no matter how bad they suck. Kind of been waiting for this day. I've been waiting for the day where, the white movie critics, they're the most liberal bunch of all. So they're the ones out there trumpeting all this racial consciousness. They're the ones trumpeting, well, this movie's made by a person of color, so it's got to be good. They're the ones talking about Wakanda. Oh, this is the first movie ever with a black person in it in the history of the world. Let's make sure we really, really tell people how great it is. They're the ones who created Wakanda. Okay? But I mean, at some point, everybody's going to turn around and devour those people, right? Because all of a sudden, the people of color and the women are going to turn around if they're not 100% correct. I mean, and hoist them by their own petard. They're going to burn them with their own standards. And that's what happened in this another cinematic masterpiece called Ocean's 8. Nobody liked it. Nobody went to see it. Everybody thought the movie sucked. Why did critics say it sucked? Why did viewers say it sucked? Well, one reason only, because white men didn't understand the brilliance of all these women. And why do white men have to be the one who review these movies? Why? Why don't we read a little bit of that in case you think I'm making all this up? Female-led films are misunderstood by male critics, said Cate Blanchett and Sandra Bullock, who star in Ocean's 8. The film is a spin-off of the Naughty's Ocean 11 trilogy, where all 8 leads are played by women. Male critics have given the film lukewarm reviews so far, The Guardian's review noting the film's lifeless direction, and Variety saying the film series now, quote, doesn't summon the rush of delighted surprise it once did. Bullock, who plays the character Debbie Ocean, told a reporter that she would prefer to have people of similar demographics to the target audience review a film. It would be nice if the reviewers reflected who the film is for, like children should review children's films, not a 60-year-old man, she told a reporter. I guess his opinion would be kind of skewed. She added that she would like there to be, quote, a balancing out of pool of critics so that it reflects the world we are in, like we are trying to reflect the world that I live in and my friends live in. It's not just all men. I love men. I want to be at a table with men, but I also want to be invited to the table that the men are at. Cate Blanchett said that a male reviewer could see the film through a prism of misunderstanding. Discussing whether Hollywood is getting better at telling stories about women, the studio can support a film, she said, and it's also invisible faces on the internet, often male reviewers, who can view it through a prism of misunderstanding. And so I think that it is really a big part of the equation. And they're talking about the other female-led reboots of film classics like Ghostbusters, which sucked, had the most disliked movie trailer ever on YouTube. And the woman I forget her name, she's on Saturday Night Live. She's the black woman on Saturday Night Live. Yeah, she's been very vocal in the fact that, that was like the greatest movie ever. But, because white guys sabotaged it because of their own racist reasons. And now that they're going to make another movie, another Ghostbusters, she wasn't invited to be in it. And that, of course, was, again, that was just an eruption of racism and sexism all rolled into one that is ruining the world, especially movies. So let's give women a pass from movie criticism.
Please, sir. I want some more.
Man, that's 3 in one day. 3 examples of how white people really suck in a criminal way every day. Just going around ruining things for women and people of color every day. And so white guys, we're just sitting here shrugging our shoulders going, hey, I just want to go see a movie. I could take my girlfriend, my wife, not at the same time. That's an old joke. My girlfriend, my wife, my kids too. I just want to see something we can enjoy. And if it sucks, don't come blame me because you made a lousy movie, okay? Capiche? Even if that makes the black kids angry.